Sweetness. That's supposed to be copyright-free music, so we'll see. Alright. I've got a bunch of stuff I want to talk about today, and I picked these topics with great care. I just searched video game stuff, news, and picked a bunch of shit to talk about. The first one is Sony is confident that the PS5 will sell 60 million units. Seems a bit low to me. What does that mean? Are they lowballing themselves? Is there a problem? The next topic is going to be Sony admits that Xbox Game Pass is just better than what they have. Then we'll get into Call of Duty. Then we'll get into Final Fantasy 16 only being available or able to be created on the PlayStation 5. So the first topic is that Sony is confident the Charlie coming downstairs. Every time I fuck up, I'm gonna break off in a song. Sony is confident the PlayStation 5 can break 60 million sales. Sony president Hiroki Totoki. If you don't like saying that, I don't know what's wrong with you. But he said they're confident the PlayStation 5 will sell over 60 million units. And he expects to sell PS5 continuously, 4th year after launch. With 32.1 million shipments to date, the PlayStation 5 is off to a great start. Considering its supply issues, Sony's management expects to at least double the figure in the coming years as the company ramps up production and manufacturing of the system. Could the PS5 outsell the PS5? That's what this article actually says. I'm reading this, by the way, journalism. Could the PS5 outsell the PS5? That's a sentence written in this article. It's hard to say, but the PS5 still has not shipped as much as the PS4 did in launch and line sales. So they're talking about the PS4 there. But ultimately, I said that they said they have a good chance to exceed 60 million units. And as you may know, we've sold more than 100 million units in the era of the PlayStation 4. So when I heard them talk about 60 million units, they're talking about about 60 million units. They're talking about the lifespan of the PlayStation 5, and they're lowballing it. They're saying they expect to sell at least 60 million coming off of a generation when they're still selling PlayStation 4s and they're over 100 million units sold. So is that indicative of a change within Sony? Are they lowballing the PlayStation 5? Do they foresee a problem? Maybe harsher competition? Maybe changing trends? Maybe gamers simply having so many more choices now that maybe that PlayStation 5 is not going to sell as much as the PlayStation 4 did. Now, I think that this is a lowball number. I don't know where they got 60 million from, because the trajectory that the PlayStation 5 is on right now, it seems like the console is going to sell well over 100 million units by the time this generation is over. And this generation is probably going to last another 647 years, considering we're still making cross-gen titles. So I think that 60 million was a bit strange. I don't know. Maybe they're foreseeing, a new Switch coming out. Maybe they're foreseeing, mobile. Maybe they're thinking about that Activision Blizzard King deal and Microsoft getting a bigger hand in mobile and making so much more money and having so much more leverage that maybe 60 million seems like a good number to them right now. But in the past, Sony would have never just said, hey, we're going to sell around 60 million. They would always shoot for the stars, right? 100 million, at least as much as last generation. But in this article, they're talking about just selling 60 million units. And I thought that was odd. And of course, there's a commercial on right now from the... It's amazing. They give you 12 hours of royalty-free music, and when you're listening to it, commercials pop up that aren't royalty-free. Nelson Gaming is here, and he says, Nelson Gaming, by the way, I have no fucking idea how to get this comment up on the screen. I added it as a source in Streamlabs. Mooch told me add it as a source. I did it, and it's not friggin' working, okay? But I'll read it. It says, PS5 would be at almost 50 million now if it wasn't for shortages. I don't know. That's a big number. You think they'd be that high? 50 million already? In a few years? So they're only about, what, 2.5 years in right now? So you're talking about 25 million a year? I don't know. I don't think they'd be that high. But I definitely admit that they'd be much higher than they are right now. I just thought that 60 million was a bit strange, because it seemed like a lowball number. Nelson Gaming says he's PC illiterate. Yeah, I mean, I'm not PC illiterate, but I'm this, this streaming nonsense, this video game streaming stuff, adding things and doodads into fucking sources, and this mixer here for the Yeti stereo microphone, and Streamlabs putting a picture up. Just getting this picture up took me, some time. The next topic is Sony admits that Xbox Game Pass is far ahead of PlayStation Plus. Far ahead of PlayStation Plus. Now, I have both, and I'll be honest with you, PlayStation Plus is not bad, and it's getting much better. The problem with PlayStation Plus is they've oversold it on the idea of classics. Premium was the tier everybody jumped for. When you heard about PlayStation Plus Premium, you heard about PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, you thought back to PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. Everybody's screaming about PlayStation 3 games being natively playable. We all thought that would happen, and it still hasn't happened. And the issue is that they kind of oversold it based on that one tier. And what's happening is that the lower tier, is the one that I think most people should go for, PlayStation Plus Extra, because that's the one getting really great games. And the higher tier with Premium that I have, I'm not getting enough PlayStation 1 games. I'm not getting enough PSP games. I'm not getting enough PS2 games, and I do not want to stream PS3 games. So there's a wellspring of content that they could do the work for to get it into that premium tier to make it attractive, but they're just not doing it, and that's something where Xbox comes out on top. Their backwards compatibility is incredible, but they dropped the ball there too, because every backwards compatible game that's on Xbox right now should be in Game Pass day one. Boom, put them all in there. Definitely should be there. But the article says, Sony admits Xbox Game Pass is far ahead of PlayStation Plus. Sony has admitted that when it comes to multi-game subscription programs, quote, it is beyond doubt that Game Pass is far ahead of PlayStation Plus. While the redesigned PlayStation Plus tiers, why can I not speak? While the redesigned PlayStation Plus tiers have been touted as Sony's Xbox Game Pass competitor, the platform holder feels like there's a long way to go before they're on even terms. Call of Duty could increase the gap between PlayStation Plus and Game Pass. Of course it could. Sony claims that even if they accept a deal to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 for the next 10 years, Microsoft still has ways to push gamers towards Xbox. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to find ways to push people towards your product. Now, I'm not getting into whether or not you should be able to buy an entire publisher who traditionally put games everywhere, and everyone use those games in attractive ways to make people come to their platform. But what I am saying is that you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to find ways to push people towards your product. One way is to make future Call of Duty games exclusive to Xbox Game Pass, a point Sony raised when they claimed The Elder Scrolls 6 would be Xbox exclusive. This would make Game Pass a much better proposal than PlayStation Plus for many gamers. Another of those ways is the cost of the license. Apparently, Microsoft could manipulate prices of its license to weaken PlayStation or PlayStation Plus by providing Call of Duty on PlayStation at a commercially unavailable or unviable price, thereby making it a de facto exclusive. So here's something most people aren't talking about. So let's say they own Call of Duty, they own all these games. Well, the licensing fee to get those games on other platforms, sure, Microsoft can say, we're going to give you a good deal for 10 years. But eventually, they can manipulate those prices because they own it, to give themselves an unfair advantage. I'm not getting into whether or not Microsoft should be able to buy large publishers that traditionally have put their games everywhere. I'm saying that you're supposed to find ways to push people towards your platform, which is what they're doing. However, it is a real concern when you can manipulate prices in a market, and that is a lot of control for one company to have. Activision has some control because they've got a great IP. They created it, and they created something that everyone wants, so they can go to everybody. A little piece here, a little piece there. Everyone come to the table, tell us how much of this ham you want, and we'll carve it up. As opposed to one big major player owns everything, and they're going to tell you how much you're going to pay for the plate. Either way, a decision is yet to be made on the Activision Blizzard acquisition, and a Call of Duty deal between Sony and Microsoft is yet to be agreed. It remains to be seen whether Xbox Game Pass will remain far ahead of PlayStation Plus. Well, look, Sony's admitting in this article, these are their words, right? That Game Pass is far ahead of PlayStation Plus right now. So according to them, not me, not anybody listening, PlayStation, Sony has said that Game Pass is far ahead of PlayStation Plus. Whether or not you agree or disagree, I happen to I think they're kind of similar because there's a lot of good games on PlayStation Plus. I tend to like the games that are on PlayStation Plus a little bit more because they're more focused in on single-player, story-driven games as opposed to running around online with your friends. But this is Sony saying Game Pass is ahead of them. So we got to take it at face value that it is ahead. Whether or not this deal goes through could mean the death of PlayStation Plus as an attractive service to anybody, really. But we'll just have to wait and see. I thought it was interesting that they themselves said in this article that Game Pass is far ahead of PlayStation Plus. The next article I want to talk about is, this is interesting when you think about it. You think about why people buy a PlayStation. I'm just going to tell you why I buy one. I don't care about anybody else. They can go scratch this sister's ass, all right? Here's why I buy a PlayStation. I buy a PlayStation for innovation. I buy a PlayStation for experiences. Jimmy Harrison is here. He says, yo, Worry, how are you, my friend? I'm good, thank you for stopping by. Nelson Game, I got to figure out how to get these comments up on the screen. I don't know. Nelson Gaming says, PS5 sales are up 200% since shortage. Exactly, right? They're up. I'm not saying it's not the top-selling console. Absolutely it is, and it's for a reason. True Virgil says, Worry, what's up, True Virgil? Nelson Gaming's, it's because of the day and date. There's more on Game Pass. Yeah, eventually there will be, right? Hopefully if they start releasing games, Microsoft's got to release software to get it into Game Pass. This idea of, hey, in the next 12 months, you're going to play all these games. Hey, remember that 12-month time period? Yeah. Forget that. We're going to do something else. That has to stop. Anyway, though, think about this. For all the reasons you buy a PlayStation, I buy one. Single player, the controller, new experiences, PlayStation VR, love it. All of those new experiences. And the first party, Spider-Man, Wolverine coming, whatever Sucker Punch is working on is going to be great. They've got those games as a service titles that I'll not look at because I hate games as a service. But everything else they're doing, obviously they're going to be making more video games. They're going to be playing to their strength, which means single-player games. They're not going to stop doing that. All of that stuff that everyone buys a PlayStation 5 for, and Call of Duty was the top-selling PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 game for the last 10 years, folks. 10 years. Now, this makes me disappointed. It really does, because Call of Duty, I mean, doesn't speak to the creativity of the industry when it comes to some of the experiences that I've had. Jimmy Harrison real quick says, I am really gravitating to my PlayStation more than anything. Haptics, 3D audio, exclusives, and now VR. It really is innovating. Jimmy Harrison doing the Sony PlayStation advertisement in the comment section. I agree, though. You're right. Sony has revealed Call of Duty was the top-selling game on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 for the last 10 years, with just one exception. This means Call of Duty has beaten massively popular PlayStation exclusives such as Uncharted, The Last of Us, Marvel Spider-Man, Horizon, and God of War. Now, folks, when you see that headline, and I read that to you, it makes it sound like having Uncharted, The Last of Us, Marvel Spider-Man, Horizon, and God of War is somehow a bad thing. All of those games, by the way, sold multiple millions of copies. All of those games, by the way, sold multiple millions of PlayStation 4s and PlayStation 5s, and all of those games will spawn multiple million-selling sequels that are exclusive to your platform. So they're still important. But this stresses how important Call of Duty is. Nelson Gaming, I stopped buying COD after Black Ops 2. Yeah, I don't buy COD at all, but apparently in the last 10 years, it's the top-selling game on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. The one exception over the last 10 years was another Call of Duty game called Call of Duty Vanguard in 2021. Sony did not reveal which game was the top-selling PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 title in 2021, and Vanguard's final position was redacted when Sony's document was released to the public. Despite Vanguard not being the top game, it did still manage to beat games like Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto 5, and FIFA 22 in terms of positive gameplay. So Call of Duty is absolutely insane. I don't know whether to be awed by this or depressed that with all of these fantastic experiences, these indie games, these new AAA games, all of these developers taking risks and creating great experiences, Call of Duty is the one that just keeps on keeping on. The Call of Duty franchise is incredibly important to Sony, and an independent survey has already revealed that more players buy a PlayStation 5 console for the franchise rather than for any of Sony's console exclusive games. Now, look, independent surveys are like, are like assholes. They're like opinions, right? I'm sorry. Independent surveys are like opinions. No, wait. What's the analogy I'm trying to make here? Independent surveys are like opinions because opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one and they usually stink. That's what I'm trying to get to. All right. I screwed that up big time. For the franchise rather than any other sort of games. Call of Duty is the main point of argument between Microsoft and Sony, as the former's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard attempts to gain approval from various authorities. Nelson Gaming says COD doesn't have the shelf life like a lot of other games because they come out year in, year out. NBA 2K, FIFA, COD, Madden, etc. Yeah, but etc. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. Call of Duty was the top-selling PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 game for the last 10 years. So, I don't know what to make of that. Where was I? I lost my place. Call of Duty is the main point of argument. A 10-year deal has been offered to keep the game on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, although Sony is yet to reach an agreement. Now, think about that. Why did they get to that 10-year deal? Well, according to this metric, for the last 10 years on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, Call of Duty was the top-selling game. So they're saying, hey, for 10 more years, it could be the top-selling game. By the way, we own it. And assuming after that 10 years is up, it's probably still going to be the top-selling game on the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 6 in its infancy. And guess what happens then? You have to come to us and ask us to renegotiate that deal. And what are we possibly going to be able to do? Not only are we going to possibly be able to say, well, you can't put it in PlayStation Plus anymore, even though we said you could for that first 10 years. We have it in Game Pass for $15 or whatever it is at that point. It has to go up in price. And the licensing fee to get it on your platform, well, that's going up too. We're going to take as much as we can to push people to our platform. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast says, worry with a bunch of exclamation points. Brap, if I knew how to invite you to this, I would. I don't even know how to get the friggin' comments up on the screen here. I added them as a source to this Streamlabs desktop thing I'm using. If I knew how to add you, I would. I just have no clue. Somebody's going to have to teach me how to do this because I don't know. And to be honest with you, I'm not really interested in finding out, but eventually I will. The next thing I wanted to talk about, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I file this under the professional opinion of horseshit, and that is Final Fantasy 16 devs say only PlayStation 5 can handle the game's combat. Nelson Gaming real quick says they could ask for 90% instead of 70%. Invite him to your Discord. And then Brap says, are you using Discord? I am using an app on my MacBook called Streamlabs Desktop. No idea. I just open the app and I say, start stream. So If you know how to do it, hop on in here. I can open up my Discord while I'm live here and see if that works. Let me see. I don't believe I'm using the Discord. No, not using it. So, according to this article, maybe you were wondering why Final Fantasy XVI Square Enix highly anticipated action RPG, and I love that they're saying Final Fantasy and action RPG, because traditionally they're turn-based RPGs, but no more turn-based, it seems. Will only be available on PlayStation 5 when it launches on June 22nd. Well, according to Square Enix, it's because of the, quote, power of the PlayStation 5 that lets the team achieve next-gen, what do we call it, current-gen? Combat. Whoever writes these articles, I mean, look, is it too much to ask to understand how to put a sentence together in 2023? Or proofread something? It's just unbelievable. Final Fantasy XVI is the upcoming installment in the long-running RPG series, pretty much since the game was revealed in June 2022. It has been dragged for a variety of reasons, including the terrible explanation for why the game is so white and the apparent lack of a multi-platform release despite previous marketing saying otherwise. Now, in a new IGN interview, Square Enix shed some light on the latter. What does it mean the game is so white? Let me click on that article for a second. Oh, God. I'm not even going to get into that. You got to be... please, it's 2023 nonsense. After playing a curated section of Final Fantasy XVI, IGN found out that the game's boss battles seamlessly transition between player-controlled combat and cinematic cutscenes, which has happened before in other games, so that can't be the reason why it's only possible on PlayStation 5. The gaming publication asked Square Enix about this blend, with producer Yoshida saying that the team was able to achieve these impeccable transitions because the PlayStation 5 is working hard in the background. Quote, while you're battling Ifrit and Garuda and having that big battle in the hands-on demo, in the background, the PlayStation 5 is loading the next scene, Yoshida told IGN. Quote, it's getting ready so we can seamlessly move with it. The big battle Yoshida is talking about is an icon battle. These are massive, Keiju-like fights in Final Fantasy XVI in which you, as a protagonist, Clive Rosefeld, can assume the body of the series' iconic summons to stomp on another summon. So, essentially what they're saying is that because the way the PlayStation 5 is designed, that Final Fantasy XVI can only be done on the PlayStation 5. Okay? Look, anybody who knows anything, and you don't have to be a developer. I'm not a developer. I've never created a video game. I've played millions of video games over 40 years. I've read about video games. I've consumed everything I possibly can about video games, some tech stuff as well, but I'm not a tech expert. The idea that Final Fantasy 16 can only be done on the PlayStation 5, again, technical opinion here, horse crap. The only reason that they're saying this is because there's a deal, and that's fine. The same way Microsoft can push people towards their system in any way possible, which is what they're supposed to do. Square Enix and Sony can have this deal. There's much more adoption on a PlayStation platforms. Final Fantasy games have come to the Xbox in the past. I've purchased them and played them, but the numbers of players has been extremely low. No, putting them in Game Pass day one is not going to happen because it's a Final Fantasy game. So I get it. However, the idea that the Xbox Series X cannot run Final Fantasy 16, it's just not true. There have been games that have had seamless transitions between cutscenes and gameplay. Let's talk about a game called Lost Odyssey. You can play that right now on your Xbox Series S or your Xbox Series X. It is a backwards compatible game from the Xbox 360 generation, and the cutscenes go straight into the gameplay, and it looks absolutely incredible. Buck Rogers is here. Switch is where it's at for me right now. Switch is where it's at for everyone, Buck Rogers. Everybody who's in the know knows that Nintendo is where it's at. If you're worried about the future of gaming, if you're worried about consoles going away again every single generation that comes up, if you're worried about the future and everything being games as a service, if you're worried about the idea that there'll be no more physical content, there'll be no more consoles, there'll just be this streaming stick that you plug in, games as a service, well, go with Nintendo, because there'll always be a system and they'll always make a toy for you to purchase and play with, essentially, their systems. I'm not saying toy as a dig. I love the fact that that's how they look at it, and I love the fact that that's how they approach console gaming. So you're right, Buck Roger, in the chat. Thank you. However, Final Fantasy 16 would just have slower loading times on the Xbox Series X. That's all. They could easily take advantage of the strengths of the Series X if they had a deal, but they don't. So it's just marketing. Final Fantasy 16 can't be done. Now, I'm not saying the PlayStation 5 isn't going to do this game justice. It's probably going to be incredible. They're going to take advantage of that fast transfer speed. The SSD is much faster. They're going to take advantage of all the little ins and outs of the PlayStation 5, the DualSense controller. All of that stuff's going to make this game sing on the PlayStation 5. I can't wait for it. But the idea that nothing can be done on one system that can't be done on the other is just insane. Buck Rogers says, can't wait for Zelda, drops this May 12th. Yeah. Interesting thing about Zelda and me. Breath of the Wild, I had a love-hate relationship with. I don't like the degrading weapons. I just don't like that. I don't know what it is when it comes to Zelda. It's just a little bit too much for me. It sort of strays into the whole Witcher thing, and I just feel like it's kind of moving away from what makes Zelda Zelda, and I need more dungeons. I definitely need more dungeons in the game. But hopefully, I don't think they're going to get rid of the degrading weaponry. But hopefully they give us more of a feeling of exploration like the dungeons used to have. Even something like, if you play Hogwarts Legacy recently, going into some of the forests like that and exploring and finding like caves or stuff like that, that felt more like early Zelda to me than Breath of the Wild. And I hope they get back to that sense of exploration. Rap Basement Radio Arcade Podcast says Lexington Steel can't be done. Yeah, Lexington Steel can't be done on PlayStation 5. Talk about a hard drive, man, and some fast transfer speeds. Oh man, Buck Roger says, shame the weapon breaking really bothers me. And yes, give me more real dungeons. Yeah, the weapon. Oh man, yeah, the weapon breaking really bothers me. I don't know. A lot of people seem to say that they love it. It adds to the RPG elements of the game, but I don't know. I think there's just something magical about the idea of just having the weapon and exploring more. There's more sense of freedom, and you don't have to worry about those little things like that. Brat crying his eyes out. Oh man, I wish I could invite you. I really do. We'll figure it out. You got to send me a message or something like that. How to do this? I have no idea how to do it. I know how to get media files in here, like a video, but I just didn't take any video to put up here. Final Fantasy 16 absolutely can be done on the Xbox Series X. They have a deal. By the way, do you think having a deal for Final Fantasy 16 to be exclusive on the PlayStation 5, do you think having that and then complaining about possibly losing Call of Duty exclusivity, you think that's a bit hypocritical? I know a lot of people like to point to that, and I do see that side of it. Final Fantasy is exclusive. Final Fantasy 7 is exclusive. There's some other games that came out, like Forspoken, that's exclusive. I think the point of contention comes up where you're buying huge publishers that have always traditionally put their stuff everywhere. Now, you could say Square Enix always traditionally put their stuff everywhere, but look, traditionally, they put their stuff on Nintendo systems, and then when Nintendo decided to go with cartridges instead of CDs, what did Square Enix do? The hell with it, we're moving to PlayStation. By default, PlayStation got that. Jimmy Harrison's laughing. He says, "What's up, Brap?" So I think it's more of a semantics argument. Yes, they're buying this huge publisher. Yes, they might have tons of leverage. Yes, they may be able to set prices, and all that's bad. I don't think that's great for one company to be able to set prices. Now, Sony being able to go to Square Enix and say, we want a deal to keep this exclusive is different than Microsoft buying a whole publisher and saying, now we can price manipulate the market to give us an advantage. That's a bit different because Microsoft can go to Square Enix just like Sony did. Because essentially Square Enix is the same as Activision Blizzard. They're making a product, they're making something hot that everyone wants, and you compete for it. Now there's no competition. We're just buying it outright. So there is a difference, but it is kind of hypocritical to complain about stuff like that. Buck Rogers says, I want to say Buck Rogers all the time, but it's Buck Roger. Yes, consoles have always been about exclusives. If there were no exclusives, then I would only own one system. Perhaps this alluded to Jimmy Harrison. Nelson Gaming. Xbox could get Final Fantasy IX remake. Yeah, there's plenty of other Final Fantasy games too, right? They just don't want to spend the money to make deals for content. They want to spend the money to buy the content forever and then manipulate the market for control. Again, listen, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. If the market allows for that and the publisher wants to be purchased, then they're allowed to do it. Worry, I have a crush on Stormy Daniels. Brap says he has a crush. Listen, just don't, apparently you can pay her and then you can pay her to be quiet and she won't be quiet. So just only pay her once and you'll be okay. 3 Mile Island says, hi, Worry Wart. What's going on? 3 Mile Island. Lord. What a name. I don't even know what the hell I was talking about. I lost complete track. Oh, Final Fantasy 16. Yeah. So I think it's hypocritical. I think you could say it's hypocritical for them to complain about it, but it's not hypocritical to say that, nobody should have that much control over something that large. You should be able to both compete, throw your money in the, get in the ring and say, I want Call of Duty, I want map packs, I want this, I want that. By the way, Microsoft did this last generation. 3 Mile Island says, do you by any chance know when the Redfall beta is? I don't think there is a Redfall beta. I think it just drops and comes out because Microsoft doesn't need a beta, because we know Microsoft and their first party are always completely polished when they come out. So why have a beta? I'm just kidding. I don't think there's a beta though, but I'll be there when it comes out. Hopefully it's a really good game. Hopefully the single player is actually single player. They keep saying that you can play it by yourself and it's built to be a single player game. And Arcane traditionally made really good single player first person / RPG. So hopefully it is. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast says Lexington Steele is a DLC character in Final Fantasy 16. You're gonna need extra space on your hard drive for that. Lots of space. This joke is never going to go away. So that's the topics that I wanted to talk about. I don't think Final Fantasy 16 is somehow, it just can't be done on any other system than the PlayStation 5. So he says that combat director Ryoto Suzuki said that without Sony's skyscraper-looking behemoth of a machine, the game... Now, here's what's important. The game would still be in development. He's not saying the game wouldn't be done. He's saying it would still be in development, meaning they would have to optimize for other systems, and it could be done. So there you have it. 3 Mile Island says, oh my God, no beta. That first week is going to be crazy trying to find a game. Well, it's a single-player game, too, so you can just hop on and play the game by yourself, and I think people could jump in and out. 3 other people plus yourself, so that's 4 people. They did say, I think yesterday, that you are not tethered to each other. So all 4 of you can go off in 4 different directions to the ends of the map and not worry about being, kicked out or anything like that. So that's kind of cool. I don't know how that would work in terms of solving missions and things like that, or working together. Maybe that's indicative of the fact that if you can go anywhere on the map, all 4 of you, in 4 different directions, then maybe there is a deeper story there so that each player can experience something new. I don't know. Brap again says, Stormy Daniels' private areas look like a PS5. Oof. I don't know if they're that new. The PlayStation 5 is like 2 years old, 2.5 years. Oh my God, this is... Any update on the Amico? I don't know. I think that only an Italian could pull off a scam like that, and we know Tommy Tallarico did a hell of a job. By the way, I have all of those physical Amico games. I'm looking at them right now. quote unquote physical games for the Amico system, but I don't think that's coming out. Oh my God, how long have I been doing this? 34 minutes. I really need to figure out how to do, like, how to get these comments up here. I'm in the sources. I see chat box. There's a little lock on it. I unlock it. Does that mean it's going to pop up on the screen? I don't know. Somebody say something. Tell me if it pops up on the screen. There's a little lock button for chat box. Now I click it. It shows a little unlocked symbol. Does that mean that the friggin' messages are going to come up on the screen? The alert box, I click that. That's got an open little lock now. Does that mean that the messages are going to come up on the screen? I have no idea. I don't know how to work this. I'll figure it out. Buck Rogers says, physical boxes. I don't know, man. I have no idea how to do this shit. That's what I wanted to talk about. Final Fantasy 16 can come to PlayStation. Call of Duty's huge. The top-selling game for the last 10 years on the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. Beating out Uncharted, beating out Last of Us, beating out Spider-Man, beating out Horizon. But here's something to remember. Just because COD beats out all of those games doesn't mean that all of those games aren't important. You still have to create. That's what Sony did. You still have to create things to draw people to your brand and use something as big as COD. Microsoft, on the other hand, hasn't really created much. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to take that leverage piece. They're trying to checkmate Sony and take something rather than create 5 or 6 new IPs internally that sway the needle, that get people talking, that make the industry excited, that pull people and gamers to their platform. They're going to move Call of Duty over. And I'm not saying they can't create stuff. Maybe they can. Maybe buying Call of Duty buys them 10 more, 15 more, 20 more years to actually create great games. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm not trying to argue whether one is better than the other, because I just don't care at this point. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of trying to find reasons to, I don't know, to shit on Microsoft for doing it, or praise Sony for not doing it. Buck Rogers says, that's sort of what Xbox did in the early days of the 360. Well, how many times did Xbox 360 have every single Call of Duty map pack first? What did they do? They went to Activision, just like Sony did. They both got in a tub together, and whoever lathered Activision's back with a loofah better got the map packs. They competed in the tub. So why can't they do that when it comes to Square Enix? Basement Radio Arcade says, worry, who is Peter North? Oh, my own. Jesus. Anyway. Microsoft stopped doing that. They stopped going for those Call of Duty map packs. They stopped going to the table and throwing their money in the hat. Essentially giving PlayStation carte blanche to get Call of Duty, to offer money to Activision for Call of Duty. Now, they stopped doing it because they said they wanted to work on their own first party. I remember them saying that back in the 360 days, towards the end of it, the beginning of the Xbox One days. They haven't done it. Maybe they'll do it in the future. Redfall is a first-party game. That's coming. The first-party game underneath of Microsoft after a purchase is what? I don't know. Starfield was already in development. Redfall was already in development. I think Forza 5 maybe was the first. Buck Rogers says, I still remember when the 360 got GTA 4. Yeah, see what I'm saying? Peter Moore knew how to do it. What did he do? He went in there and he said, all right, how much is Sony giving you for GTA? GTA 4. Oh, really? That's what they're giving you? Well, here's something. Final Fantasy 13. How much are they giving you to keep that exclusive on PlayStation? Oh, really? Here's a big bag of cash. And what happened? Those games came to the Xbox. The same thing could happen with Final Fantasy 16. The same thing could happen with Call of Duty if they don't purchase Activision, Blizzard, and King. The same thing could have happened with Final Fantasy 7 and any other exclusive title like Stray or whatever else is coming. like Chia, that's coming soon. All this stuff could happen. Microsoft just decided to stop doing it. They decided to stop doing it because they wanted to create their own content. Then it became they wanted to create their own service. Now they're trying to find ways to make sure that their service is the service. The same way they did with Windows, packaging it in with everything. Everybody else can compete, but we're giving this away for free for a while. And eventually, nobody can compete. Again, not saying that they shouldn't do this, couldn't do this, wouldn't do this, what's better, what's worse, what's organic, what isn't organic. I'm just saying there's ways to do what Sony does. Microsoft decided to stop doing it, and they're doing what they're doing now. Whether or not it works, I don't know. I don't see how owning Call of Duty is going to help. It's Call of Duty. You could have gotten it. It's going to be there anyway. The only way it helps is if you leverage everyone else out and you nickel and dime them in the future and you gain control, which is probably what's going to happen. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast says, worry, Atari released a Lexington Steel Pro joystick for the 2600. Wow. That's what that Power Glove was for, right? Yeah. I knew there was a use for that Power Glove. I just didn't know what it was. And now we know. And knowing is half the battle. By the way, this show is so popular. I have 10 concurrent viewers right now. I know what you're saying. You know, wow, how do I get in here? How do I get my comment read with that many people watching? Well, I'm gonna do my best to get to all of you. Nelson Gaming says, this podcast is rated NC-17. Well, it's not my fault. I started off being, PG, G, mostly G, and then somebody decided to come in here and take it straight to the gutter. But that's fine. Buck Rogers finishes it for me. G.I. Joe. By the way, I'm going to get completely off topic here. Somebody tell me what the fuck happened to Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, I wake up now, if I'm home on a Saturday. I turn on the television. There's nothing on. There's no cartoons. Where's Voltron? Where's Transformers? Where's the Centurions? Where's Scooby-Doo? Nelson Gaming says, I blame Brap, but that's okay. He is entertaining as well. Yeah, he's also a pony. And he never was an Xbox Live beta tester. So, there's that. But I remember waking up and calling my friend, Anthony, on the phone, big phone with a long cord, and we would talk about whether or not that Prince Zarkon was going to defeat Voltron this week. I'm not lying. That's what we would talk about. And we would wait for it to come on. Jimmy Harrison says, man, love the Centurions. Remember the Centurions, man? Power Extreme, Man and Machine. What happened to Saturday morning cartoons? Buck Roger, I got my Saturday morning cartoons on DVD. Classic. Oh my God, Johnny Quest. Johnny Quest, man, was the best. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast has got 3 smiley faces with tears coming out of their eyes right now. Thank God they're just tears with all this talking we've been doing. Could have been something else. Saturday morning sucks now. I mean, it's terrible. What was the Saturday morning cartoon? The Hanna-Barbera race. Remember the Hanna-Barbera racing cartoon where they would all race? All the different characters would have the race cars. Oh my God. I'm going way back. Holy God. What happened? What happened? You can't even be a kid anymore on Saturday morning. Oh, I have to get them on DVD. That's what I got to do. What I got to do is I have to get them on DVD and put them in like a timer on the DVD. So when I wake up, they're just on, and then I could pretend that the television is actually showing these things. I could be, it could be 1980 again. That's what I need to do. Terrible. Same thing with gaming. What's up with 2 remakes? Right into a good segue. Metroid Prime Remaster. By the way, I don't know why Nintendo calls it a remaster, because it's a remake. Completely different. Higher polygon counts, different models in the game. That's a remake, not a remaster. And God, what's the next one? Resident Evil 4 coming. Real quick, 3 Mile Island says, Wacky Racers. Yes, that's what it was. Wacky Racers. Worry. Do you think Xbox needs a VR solution in the future? Sure, PSVR 2 is fantastic, but maybe Xbox gamers wouldn't be interested in it or want to buy games for it. Xbox gamers don't seem to be interested in buying anything, so I don't know. I would like VR to work. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast says cartoons are all on cable channels and streaming services. I have cable. I don't see these cartoons. I don't see Johnny Quest. I don't see Wacky Racers. I don't see Voltron. 3 Mile Island, Muttley's Laugh. Yes, Muttley was the dog, right? And he had that... Oh, my God, Muttley. Who is the guy... Oh, who is the guy... He rode the horse. He was like a park ranger, and the girl was always tied to the train tracks, and he was always saving her. Oh my God, I'm going way back now. He had like I could see him. He had like a red uniform, and he would ride that horse, and she was always tied to the tracks, and he would always save her. Okay, let me get back to this topic. Jesus, right? The top-rated games so far this generation are both remakes of GameCube games. What does that say about this generation's creativity so far? First off, Hogwarts Legacy is a better game. This generation, it's a brand new game, huge world, tons of detail, paid attention to the source material. It is a fantastic game. You're telling me that Metroid Prime and Resident Evil 4, not that they're not fantastic games, but come on. There's a certain level of nostalgia driving these high scores. I'm not saying they're not great games, but give me a break. I mean, in the case of Resident Evil 4, right? What's one of the major selling points? Wow, you can use the right stick now to control the camera. The same thing with Metroid. So, come on. Dudley Do Good. Wasn't it Dudley Do Right? I think it was Dudley Do Right. That's it, man. Buck Roger. My God, you might be older than I am. Jimmy Harrison says, let me take you back where He-Man, Heathcliff, Dungeons and Dragons, Brave Star, Bionic 6, oh my God, and Cops. Yes. Who was the when you said Bionic 6, what was the one with the, oh my God, they were silver, they were all silver. Was it Silverhawks? Silverhawks? I think it was Silverhawks, and there was Galaxy Rangers. Remember the Galaxy Rangers? Oh, man, what happened? What the hell happened to this world? 3 Mile Island says, and Penelope Pit Stop. Oh, my God. This podcast is like food for the soul right now. Oh, my God. This is an 80s, what's the word I'm looking for? This is like an 80s orgy. Rap's going to hop in here any minute now. Silverhawks. Yep, Silverhawks. Partly metal, partly real. Silverhawk. It's all coming back. See, it's all coming back. It's in my brain. It was just hidden. It needs to be released. Nelson Gaming says, me and my kids are watching, what is it? Ronin Warriors? I don't know that one. Ronin Warriors. Is that old? Buck Rogers, Dudley Do Right. Yeah, it was Dudley Do Right. Thundar the Barbarian, Buck Rogers. Lord have mercy. That was like a He-Man ripoff, wasn't it? He had that big lion he sat on too. GoBots. Talk about a ripoff. It popped in my head. Transformers and GoBots. I love the GoBots. But Mask. Oh my God. Mobile Armored Strike Command. Was that it? Mask. Jesus. All the songs are coming back. 3 Mile Island. I used to love... Oh, Thundercats was the best. Thundercats and Voltron were the top. 80s anime, Nelson Gaming says, absolutely. Buck Rogers, Silverhawk, only show with a real space cowboy. Yeah, come on. And here comes Brap. Is Nina Hartley going to be there? You know what's messed up? Is that I know exactly who these people are you're talking about. Because, back in the day, I don't know about you, but daddies didn't give us the talk back then. We had to learn by watching VHS tapes. Ooh. Nelson Gaming, he Googled it. Jimmy Harrison says, dude, he loved Mask. I had the I remember, oh my God, I cannot believe how quickly these things are popping back into my head. I had the helicopter. It was green, and I know what it was called. It just popped in my head. It was called Grasshopper, and it was a motorcycle that transformed into a helicopter, and the driver had the big green helmet that matched. Lord have mercy. I cannot believe this stuff is popping back in my head. Here comes Brap. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast says, I think Nina is still doing movies. Sure, you think she's still doing movies. Sure, we'll go with that, Brap. You think she's still doing movies. Everyone here knows that you know she's still doing movies, Brap. You don't think it. You searched. You watch. Nina Hartley. Lord. This went from a video game podcast to an 80s cartoon podcast to a semi R-rated podcast, but it was fun. 50 minutes. I had 10 concurrent viewers. I'm on the way to the moon. You've heard of top podcasts like God, I'm drawing a blank. What's Mooch's podcast? Crossfire. Top podcasts like Crossfire and Basement Radio Arcade Podcast and some other huge Xbox-centric podcasts. Well, none of them, I tell you, have 10 concurrent viewers. 3 Mile Island says, hey, Brap, are you a, oh, okay, he said P-R-O-N encyclopedia. He meant to put P-O-R-N. Brap, yeah, Brap's deprived. I feel bad for him. I pray for him every night, you know. But, I think in time he'll be okay. I do. Especially, with the AVN Awards coming up soon. So it's been 51 minutes of an impromptu jumping into this podcast. I guess it's called a podcast. I still don't know what it's called. I have no idea how to make it work. I have no idea how to get your comments up on the screen. I have no idea how to add media files. I have no idea how to add in my browser so that I can go to different sites. I'm sure it's incredibly easy. I just don't have a lot of time to figure this stuff out, and I've never done it before. Buck Roger says they all started off with 10 at one point. Yeah, one day we'll get to 11. Brap, I'm not reading that. Jesus. Ooh. Thank God these comments do not show up on the screen, by the way. I don't know why I can't figure this out. Doesn't make sense. Does anybody know how to get comments to show up? I'm looking at the source box images. I have an image up already. Then I have media file. I don't have any media files. Alert box is there, and it says I'm clicking on a little lock, open and close, and the chat box has a little lock that says open and close. And I have them both as visible. I don't know. 3 Mile says I meant to put prawn. Didn't know if I could say the other word. Is that your sort of show? Well, porn isn't a bad word. You could say porn. It's not like, I mean, I've been saying shit, and I cursed a couple times. Jimmy Harrison says, damn it, Brad. Yeah, you can put anything you want in here. I'm not I'm not politically correct at all, so go ahead and say whatever you want. Probably should be, but I'm not. That's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Those 3 topics. I don't know how to add anybody. I have to learn. I don't know how to use Discord to do this. It's Streamlab app on my MacBook. I don't know. Is there a Streamlab app through Discord? No idea. But I promise to figure it out. By the end of this year, I will have a ton more time to do things. I plan on doing live streams on camera, talking about topics. I plan on doing live videos out hunting for video games and thrift stores and stuff like that. So tons of stuff coming that's going to be interesting and fun. Who's in here now? Soldier for Life 504 says Captain Caveman Nickelodeon back in the day. Oh my God, Captain Caveman. Jesus. Talk about going back. We had it. I tell you, I feel bad for kids. I do. I just feel bad for kids. There's nothing. What tops what we had? Nothing. There's nothing that tops watching Voltron, going from Transformers to G.I. Joe to Voltron to Thundercats to Silverhawks. I mean, it's insane. Centurions. My God. Unbelievable. Even the shows, the TV shows, even the music, everything. Maybe it's just, this is what old people do. They think their generation was the best. I don't know. I tend to think it was, but I don't know what to tell you. Jabberjaws, Buck Rogers. Jabberjaws. Underdog. Oh my God. When you just said underdog, you know what popped into my head? This might be the best one ever. The Mighty Heroes. Ho, 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 ho. Diaper Man. Cuckoo Man. Rope Man. Tornado Man. 3 Mile Island and the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Absolutely. Brap says, all the cartoons are on Netflix, Nickelodeon, and Disney. Are they? Because I have Netflix and Disney. I don't see them on there. I don't have Nickelodeon. 3 Mile Island says, worry, it actually was the best. I do believe it was the best. I really do. Not just, like your parents tell you when you were a kid, what's the shit you're listening to? My music was better. Of course it was to them. It was their generation. But I really believe that it's more than that now. I don't think that stuff now is better than it was in the 80s. I just don't. I want to go back. All right. 55 minutes. Good enough. I can't believe I had 10 people here at the drop of a hat. I had some time on a Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This must be, by the way, what it feels like to be Brap. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Just, not doing anything. Jumping into a podcast at random whenever he wants to. Wonderful life. I'll be there at the end of the year, and then we'll be able to do it. I want to thank 3 Mile Island, Brap, Buck Roger, Soldier for Life 504, Jimmy Harrison, as always, for showing up whenever I do something, Nelson Gaming, and I think that's it. Let me make sure. Let me go through this massive wall of comments. It's tough being, somebody incredibly popular like myself. That's everyone. I got everyone. Did I? Oh, True Virgil. Got True Virgil. Thank you for coming in here. And I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the interaction, the engagement. I appreciate the romp through the 80s, both cartoons and porn. And we'll have to do this again real soon. Nelson Gaming says, facts, Buck. Buck Rogers said, 80s, definitely the best music. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a whole nother topic, by the way. Jesus. For every genre, it was the best. 3 Mile, no probs. Thanks for the interesting show. Is this a regular Monday show? No, it's not. I don't have a lot of time. I just do them when I can. But it will be about the end of May, early June. I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands then. And I'll be doing stuff like this. Soldier for Life 504 says, no worries, just keep doing what you're doing. Channel will grow. Speaking of growing, I'm sure Brap will jump in here, talk about Lexington Steel after that comment. So I cut him off at the pass. Thanks for stopping by. And when I do it again, I'll be sure to figure out how to add people to the stream and how to get your friggin' comments up on the screen, which I don't know how to do. Maybe add in some sources, which I don't know how to do. But I'll have to figure it out. Anyway, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.